Oder Schwarz-Grün. Die Union wägt nach ihrem Wahlsieg die Koalitionsmöglichkeiten ab. CDU und CSU gewannen zwar kräftig Stimmen hinzu, verfehlten aber die absolute Mehrheit im Bundestag. Ihr bisheriger Koalitionspartner FDP ist an der 5%-Hürde gescheitert. Um weiter regieren zu können, kann die Union nun entweder ein Bündnis mit der SPD oder mit den Grünen eingehen. Hier das vorläufige Ergebnis. CDU und CSU kommen zusammen auf 41,5%, die SPD verbessert sich leicht auf 25,7%, die FDP stürzt ab auf 4,8%. Drittstärkste Kraft ist die Linke mit 8,6% vor den Grünen mit 8,4%. Die Euro-Gegner von der AfD verpassen mit 4,7% den Einzug ins Parlament.
Hi viewers, as you've just seen, Germany had the democratic elections yesterday. It was a Bundestag as well, the federal elections to elect the Bundeskanzler or Bundeskanzlerin, the federal chancellor, and Angela Merkel appears to be on the brink of winning the election. She obtained 41.5% of the vote and is free to find her to form her own government, mainly CDU. Stop. So we're basically celebrating the fact that Germany is a democratic state. It has one of the most modern constitutions in the whole world. But it wasn't always that way. Germany used to be run in an autocratic fashion or absolutist fashion during the period of the Holy Roman Empire, and also during the period of the Second Empire under Bismarck and the Emperor William I and William II. And the actual German state wasn't created until 1871. That was, according to Bismarck, not by democratic elections, but by blood and iron, Blut und Eisen. And so Germany defeated the Danes, the Austrians, and also the French in 1871 in wars. The Prussians defeated those nations, and then in 1871 the German nation was created with the Treaty of Versailles. There we go. Now, then, when the German state was created, 1871, Germany then set off, wanted to catch up with other empires such as France and Great Britain, and to establish its own empire. And that was basically the reason why we had the First World War, because Germany, when the world had actually, the major empires had started carving up the world and establishing their own empires, Germany was too late, effectively. They did acquire empires in Africa, but they wanted more power, and they were a highly industrialized nation, and they wanted to be on a par with Great Britain and France, and that was one of the reasons maybe that the First World War broke out. Germany lost the First World War with its allies, Austria-Hungary. Then the first episode involving German democracy, we had the Weimar Republic, but that was a failed enterprise. That failed because Hitler established his own dictatorship following that in 1933, but the problem was that it wasn't accepted by the populace at large, the German, the Weimar Republic, the democratic system, and there were a lot of small parties that were basically anti-democratic in their outlook, and that resulted in the overturning of the Weimar Republic democracy with the election of Hitler as Chancellor, plus he was supported by Hindenburg, who was essentially an aristocrat. He was a general during the First World War, a successful general, and he assisted Hitler into power. And Hitler, once he was in power, although he didn't get that much of the vote, he got about 33% at the end of 1932, 1933 elections. But he was, once he was assisted into power, empowered by Hindenburg and various other industrialists, people of influence, people who had influence within Germany. And once Hitler obviously was in power, he was a bit of a megalomaniac, and he had the support of various sections of society who had hang-ups, they had so they assisted him. And once he was in power, he wasn't going to let them relinquish his hold on power until he'd been defeated in war. And so Germany set out on a revanchist Second World War. They wanted to obtain large tracts, areas of Russia as Lebensraum, living space. We all know that Germany lost the Second World War, and so then we had the second period in which Germany had a democracy. The Allied powers, the Western Allied powers who had occupied Germany, the French occupied zone, the British occupied zone and the American occupied zone, they told the Western German politicians they had to establish a democratic system. And so Germany set the German politicians under Adenauer and Schumann, they set about establishing a democratic system, and the German constitution was known as the Grundgesetz, the basic law. It wasn't known as the constitution as such, because the idea was that Germany would eventually become a unified nation again. The Soviet zone was obviously occupied by the Russians, and at that time there was no way that all the four occupying powers were prepared to form a state and could reach an agreement on the way that Germany should be, and eventually the East Germany became the German Democratic Republic, West Germany became the Federal German Republic, a democratic system with the Grundgesetz. And obviously in 1989 then Germany was reunified, and Germany, now we have the German state, the unified German nation, and since 1949 to the present day we've had there has been a robust democratic system in Germany, and one we can be thankful that Germany has become a very prosperous, successful, democratic state with a social market economy, with a democratic system. And also the important thing to mention, which I had forgotten to mention, but the important thing to mention is that there have been the democratic system, the election system involves a 5% clause, which means that parties that have less than 5% of the vote are not allowed to enter the Bundestag, the lower chamber of government. So it has been a very successful system. Unfortunately, there are still to this day people who vote for undemocratic parties in Germany, which in view of the history that Germany has is a bit beyond belief almost. And there are also ridiculous parties like the Alternative for Deutschland, which almost got into parliament this time with 4.7% of the vote. And they are opposed to the euro, and that's their whole manifesto. They're just opposed to the euro because of what's been going on. But actually, I think the euro is a good thing. That's my opinion. It's, and just having a party that's just based on the fact that they want to oppose the euro as their only manifesto, the only thing that they're actually standing for, it seems a bit strange to me. Anyway, they didn't get into power, which is a good thing. Angela Merkel got into power. She will have the ruling party in a new coalition. She won't have a majority of the vote. She won't have a majority of the seats in the Bundestag, but she does have sufficient votes to form our own government according to our own terms and conditions. So anyway, let's celebrate democracy in Germany and celebrate the fact that Germany is a very progressive modern state and that the majority of people here embrace democracy. It wasn't always that way, but times have moved on and I'm very happy to be living in Germany. So thank you. That was our letter D. D for Deutschland, big subject, so I've been talking for ages about it, and Demokratie, democracy, and Diktatur, dictatorship. And fortunately the times of dictatorship are behind us, and now we have a democratic system which is a fully functioning democratic system and one of the most modern progressive systems in the world. Okay, thank you, that was it from me. Thank you, goodbye.